Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Jai Radha Ma. You know, we're chanting about Prahlad Maharaj and we're chanting Jai Radha Madhava. Should we chant in Narsimhadev? Well, Prabhupada always chanted Jai Radha Madhava before class. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadhari Jashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Jasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Jasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Jashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Shodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Jashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Sisi Radha Madhava ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Sri Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai, Thai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Go. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Shamini Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavari Paschachita Satarine Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudev Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. We were not able to answer all the questions from the last class, so I believe we should start with questions. And in the last class, Lord Nrsimhadev was pacified by Prahlad Maharaj, and he asked Prahlad to ask whatever he'd like to ask. And of course, a devotee likes to serve, doesn't like to ask. So this sets up the game, so to speak, that we can watch about how the pure devotee and the Lord interact when they're both arguing about not wanting to take from one another, but only to give. So we have what, 2 questions left over? If you have any questions from the last class, we'll take them now. There's a comment from Shalini. I used to chant the Narashinga Kwacham for physical protection, but a few days back you told us we can also pray to him to protect our preaching. That is wonderful. That's the real protection. I've started praying for that. You can pray to Lord Narsimhadev to protect you, specifically to protect you from obstacles on the path to bhakti. As conditioned souls, there's always going to be obstacles. You know, sometimes devotees run into obstacles and they're kind of surprised. Why? Why is this difficult? We should be surprised when it's not difficult, in a sense. Of course, Krishna consciousness purifies us, but so many times it's not difficult, but many times it is, and that should not be surprising. But we have Lord Narsimhadev to pray to protect us from temptation, to protect us from giving in to our weaknesses, and to protect us from material difficulties that become impediments to our devotional service, to protect devotees who are in difficulty, like to protect devotees in Ukraine, for example, now. We pray to Lord Narsimhadev. So it's nice that Krishna has taken this specific form that we can pray to for protection. Physical protection, of course, we need sometimes in a dangerous situation. We will pray to Lord Narsimhadev. Prayer is interesting because one could make the argument that if I'm praying for protection, one could make the argument that if I'm praying for protection, then it means maybe I don't have faith in Krishna's protection. Because one of the 6 items of surrender is that Krishna will always protect us and maintain us. So 2 items, protection and maintenance. So it's natural to pray for protection, but Prabhupada makes an interesting point. He said it's natural to pray for protection, even though we know Krishna will protect us. It appears to be a paradox, doesn't it? So prayer is a natural condition, especially for conditioned soul, whose faith is not fully developed. And it's natural to pray, Krishna, please come, help us. But at the same time, we have examples of Prahlad Maharaj who just had faith that Krishna would protect him. So I always find that when we pray, the faith should be there in what we're praying for, that Krishna will fulfill it if it is something that is beneficial for us. You know, there's a danger in praying with a lack of faith because Krishna may reciprocate with your lack of faith. Krishna, I'm praying for this. I don't know if you're going to fulfill this. I'm not sure. I don't know if I can trust you. In that way, Krishna may not give what we're asking for because we lack trust. Of course, he may not give it because it's not good for us. That's there also. But specifically, when we lack faith, Krishna's thinking, you're praying for my protection, but you lack faith in my protection. So when you pray with faith that what you're praying for, Krishna is going to do or has already done. Or, maybe give me a sign that you're going to do this, something like that. But as you progress in bhakti, your prayers will change as your faith changes. So you may stop praying for Krishna to make material adjustments for you because you have faith that he will, because you've seen it happen so many times in your life that you don't even need to pray for it anymore. So that could happen. I don't know if that's happened to you, where maybe certain things you don't pray for anymore because you have faith that Krishna always takes care of that. But anyway, hopefully that will develop in your life if you don't have that level of faith now. By seeing Krishna in action, the faith develops. And then sometimes you'll find you won't even be praying for things you used to pray for because you know Krishna in his own time will take care of you. the way he is best. Also, another thing is that often when things happen, we make judgments on them. This is good, this is bad. But from Krishna's perspective, what we think is bad may not be bad, it may be good. Or what we think is good may actually be bad for us. So it's nice to think when something which we think is bad happens, to not think it's bad, but think it's just Krishna wants me to, what is, ask, instead of asking the question, Krishna, why did you put me through this? To ask the question, what do you want me to learn from this? And don't make a judgment on it. It's like, okay, this happened. There must be a reason. What am I to learn? Maybe the reason is you made a mistake and it created this negative situation. Maybe there's a deeper reason. And that way you won't doubt Krishna or think, oh, this is so bad, or I'm so stupid, or why did I do that? And just as a side point, I was thinking the other day that my wife was telling me something that we did when we were younger, and she said, I wish we hadn't done that. And I was saying, at that age, with our experience and our knowledge, we couldn't have done it any other way. That's just, you would have to have more life experience to make a different decision. But we can look back and think, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I was stupid, or I was this or that. But sometimes it's just, that's what you are at that point in your life. And that's why you made that decision. So to berate yourself doesn't make sense. So sometimes we may do something stupid because that's all we're capable of doing at that point in our life. We don't know how not to be stupid in a particular facet of our life. We don't have knowledge or experience enough. And so then the consequences will be bad. And then we can think, okay, don't necessarily have to ponder how horrible this is or how horrible I am. But ponder, okay, what is it that I should be learning from this? And you all know from experience that if you go through something and you learn a lesson which you consider invaluable for your life, perhaps a lesson you couldn't have learned unless you went through that situation, then you look at that situation and you'll stop thinking that it was bad, although it was bad in the sense that you suffered. But you'll stop thinking it was bad, and you'll stop thinking, without that situation, I wouldn't have learned this lesson. And this lesson was essentially important for me in my Krishna consciousness. So it was actually good. And as we've talked many times, if Krishna wants to teach you a lesson and he sees that you're not learning it from hearing from him, from Guru, from Prabhupada, from others, then he may have to create a life situation for you, because that might be the only way you learn it. And so sometimes you can take it, oh, Krishna realizes I'm a dull head, and so he's making this life situation for me. Because it's the only way I'm going to learn. So, okay, we have a question. This question is from Konstantin Shadashin, and it's in Russian. Who is going to read it for us? Nadia, can you translate it to English?
Yes, Maharaj, just 5 seconds. I have to find it. It's kind of difficult to do it on my phone. So let me say it in Russian first. Простите, если ранее вы отвечали на этот вопрос, нужно ли сознательно развивать отношения с Господом Нарисимхадевом, если эта форма Господа в данный момент не привлекает, зачем это нужно, если есть Кришна, и если я в опасности, мне помогает обращение к Кришне, зачем мне развивать отношения с Господом Нарисимхадевом? So the question is that, should I consciously develop the relationship with the Lord Narsimhadev if this form of the Lord is not attractive at this particular point of time? So why should I do that if I have Krishna?
Wait, can you go back again? My speakers are set very low and I don't know how to make them louder. Something's wrong. So I should,
so the question is, should I develop my relationship with Lord Narsimhadev if this
Yes.
form of the Lord is not really attractive at this particular point of time? Why should I do that if I have Krishna? And if I am in danger, in a dangerous situation, and when I, in this situation, I ask Krishna for help and he helps me, why should I develop then a relationship with Lord Narsimhadev if Krishna helps me?
Yeah. Lord Shringadev has come particularly in that form to protect devotees. That's the way he does it. You know, like Krishna has different forms for different functions. So that's the form in which Krishna protects his devotees. We were talking about this earlier. It's like one way of looking at it. We talked about it in the first class, I think, or the second class on Lord Shringadev. So one way of looking at it is Krishna is in Braj. Why bother him with all your problems? He's with his friends. He's with Mother Yasoda. He's with the gopis. Why bother him? You know, hey, Krishna, leave the rasa dance. Come protect me. Anyway, if he comes to protect you, it's not even that form that's in Braja anyway. So he comes as Lord Nishingadev, particularly, that's the form in which to protect his devotees. So that's what he does in that form. So that's not a botheration. That's what he does. So that's one thought. The thought about the form that I'm not attracted to means you're seeing that form materially as a ferocious lion in a man, which is kind of odd, right? To see a lion is attractive. To see a man is attractive. To see a lion and a man with a lion head is scary, right? Or monstrous or strange or something. But that's material. But Lord Nrsimhadev is very beautiful. So, and you don't know when you pray to Krishna for protection that Krishna is not manifesting as Lord Nrsimhadev to protect you. So, but because you asked the question the way you asked it, I would say maybe the best answer for you is don't see Lord Nrsimhadev and Lord Krishna as two different. See them as one. And so you can pray to Lord Krishna if you like for protection, if you want to interrupt his Leela, but also understand that it's Lord Nrsimhadev who in many cases will be the one who comes to protect you. Especially if you're being attacked by non-devotees and he's angry. So I would also say that as you progress in spiritual life, the form of Lord Nrsimhadev will become more attractive. Your realization of how he's the protector will become stronger. And your desire to pray to him for protection will be stronger. Now, another thing is, as you know, we chant after kirtan prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev. So then in answering your question, you could say, why don't we just pray to the deities for protection after kirtan? Why do we have to pray to Lord Nrsimhadev? And I think the answer is obvious, and it was Srila Prabhupada who asked us to pray to Lord Nrsimhadev for the protection of the spiritual master and for the protection of ISKCON. So it just underscores the point that Lord Nrsimhadev is the protector. Now, I don't know if Constantine is here, and I don't know if he or she understood anything because the question was in Russian. So I don't know what we do now, Nadia.
I will give him the link to the class
Yeah,
and tell him that the answer is here.
but you have to translate it.
Oh, yeah, I will translate it, Maharaj.
Okay. Okay. Now we have a question from me. And we just have to figure out who me is. Is that Tanya? That's what I thought. I've heard from a couple of wonderful devotees that Lord Jagannath loves when his devotees make deals with him. If you do this for me, I will do this for you. Is that true? And how can we understand that in the light of pure devotional service? That sounds like I would need to know the source of that, the context of that, lest I would have to speculate. But I can say something. Let's just speak in general now. What this sounds like to me, what you're talking about is that maybe a liberated devotee would do this. It's an exchange of rasa. Because a sadhaka wouldn't do that. But now we do have an incident of this. So maybe it's, it's better to talk about this practically. And we do have a practical incident where if you know the story in Mumbai, the person who sold us the land in Juhu was trying to cheat us and take the land back. But if you install deities on a property, according to Indian law, that land cannot be taken. The deities cannot be removed. That land can't be taken from you. And as we all know, that when you install deities, you have a temple to install them in. You don't install them in a temporary structure, what to speak of a little shed, which is what Prabhupada did. And as I understood, as I remember the story, Prabhupada said, Krishna, please, excuse me, but please sit here. And if you do, I promise I will build you a temple. So that's an example of that. Like don't leave, don't walk away, just, tolerate this situation. I will build you a temple, which of course Prabhupada did. And of course, Radha Rasa Bihari didn't go, they stayed. So if that is the deal that a devotee makes, it's going to look something like that. It's not going to, Krishna, if you make my business successful, I will, donate $100,000 to the Mayapur temple. You can do that, but it depends what your motive is. Is your motive, your business successful? You just made 10 million and you gave 100,000. Okay, that's nice. What do you do with the other 9,900,000? Buy 9 mansions around the world. Krishna may not like that deal. So if you say, Krishna, if you help me, I have this business so I can make 10 million. Help me, and I'll give 8 million to Mayapur temple, or 5 million, or 6. So it depends on how you're making the deal. But a pure devotee would never make a deal for sense gratification. Definitely not. Krishna, you give me this 10 million, I will give you $1,000 for Mayapur. No. Now, if you're talking about devotional service which isn't pure, then that could also happen. Krishna, help me get this job, and then I'll, I promise I'll start a bhakti vriksha. Help me get this job so I can buy a house, and I promise I'll start a bhakti vriksha. But the real thing is I want the house. And because you give me the house, I'll do the bhakti vriksha, just pay back. Not like that's the main purpose of the house. So then one might say, well, isn't that better than nothing? And I would say it's a starting point, but it's not an ending point. And it's not, in a starting point, you don't want to remain on the starting point your whole life, right? And even if it's a starting point, many devotees, when they speak this way, they say, I know this is how I feel, but I know this is wrong. So that's good. So, if you're doing something wrong, or you're not, maybe not wrong, but it's not the highest, and it's not the highest, and you know that right now this is the state I'm in, and I'd rather not be in it, but this is where I'm at, and I'm trying to work my way out of it, then you will work your way out of it over time. And that's where a lot of devotees find themselves. They hear about pure bhakti, and they'll say, I'm not there yet, and I'd like to be, and I don't have the faith yet, or something is missing. Not everybody feels that way, but some. And so it's it's very interesting that from a perspective of achieving success, the person who has a clear vision of the success they want is generally going to be in a better position than a person who doesn't, even if the person who doesn't is more successful at the present. So we can say that whatever your intention is a sign of pure devotion, if the intention is pure. Even though in your current state, you're not pure. This god brother of mine told me a story. So this story is so beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful stories that I've ever heard, because it relates to this problem of not being as pure as we'd like to. I don't think any of us are as pure as we'd like to be. And it's quite common that we do things we regret. That's conditioned state. As you progress, it happens less. But in the conditioned state, we will periodically or regularly not live up to our highest ideals. So I just heard this story. I've never heard it before, and it kind of solves a lot of the issues we've discussed about being impure and wanting to be pure, but not being pure, and lamenting that we're not pure. So a devotee wrote to Prabhupada about his marijuana addiction. So he was very honest with Prabhupada, and he said that I'm smoking marijuana, but then I work very hard to overcome it. Then I overcome it for a while, but then I fall back into it. I become weak. Situations are such that I give into it, or I'm in association of people doing it. And then I get good association with devotees, and then I get out of it, but I can't maintain it. So that was the letter, just, the struggle of giving it up and then falling back into it, giving it up, falling back into it. We can relate to that. And Prabhupada's listening to the letter. And the reason he's listening to the letter is because there was a householder couple who was telling Prabhupada, we were having trouble following the 4 regulative principles. Which doesn't mean sometimes they go to McDonald's. You know what that means for a household couple. Sometimes we go to McDonald's, and sometimes we go to Las Vegas. And sometimes they have a glass of wine. No, they're a householder couple, so it's not those. And so when they said that question, when they told Prabhupada their situation, they're having difficulty, they're very concerned. Like they wanted to follow the principles, but it was difficult. They're young. And so Prabhupada could see that they didn't like that they couldn't follow, and they really wanted to. And so they're asking for some guidance, understanding. So then Prabhupada said, read that letter. And although it wasn't illicit sex, it was marijuana. It was the same thing. We try, we do it for a while, we give in, we get back on our feet, we do it for a while, we give in. And after Prabhupada listened to the letter, he turned to these people in the room, he said, and he was glorifying this devotee, he was actually glorifying this devotee who was smoking marijuana. what was he glorifying him? He was glorifying him because he kept trying to give it up. And he was succeeding, failing, succeeding, failing, succeeding, failing. And listen to what Prabhupada said. He turned to them and he said, just see how he is struggling for Krishna. That was a praise of that devotee. Isn't that interesting? Just see how he's struggling for Krishna. And I was actually thinking exactly about this last month. And I want to share a thought, which is very, very powerful, and I think extremely helpful. I just read something. Where was it? I was somewhere, some store or something. It was talking about happiness, like you have a door of happiness and you have a door of unhappiness. And sometimes, you know, the door of happiness is open and the door of unhappiness, how did it say it? Well, anyway, it was saying something like sometimes you can't be happy because you're looking at the door of unhappiness. That's where you're focused. Although the door of happiness is open, you don't go through it because you're focused on the other door. So when we have trouble in Krishna consciousness, we tend to focus on, well, I'm bad because I didn't do this or didn't do that. And that's quite common. But what Prabhupada is saying here is that there's a different focus, or there can be a different focus. And I'm not saying this as an excuse, but I'm saying this is part of how to deal with our imperfection. And it's that in spite of my conditioning, I'm still trying. So instead of regretting or lamenting that I'm having difficulty, one could also flip it around and say, you know, in spite of all the difficulty, I'm still here and I'm still trying, and that's glorious. And then so you could appreciate yourself for the very thing that discouraged you. Isn't that interesting? And really, that's what Prabhupada's saying. He's glorifying a devotee who's smoking marijuana because he's trying not to. And many times I've said that when there are difficulties, it allows us to show, well, when we have difficulties, it allows us to struggle for Krishna. And Prabhupada is praising the struggle. And in another place, I don't know if you remember, we mentioned this last year or the year before. Prabhupada said, Krishna likes to see his devotees struggle. I don't know if you remember that. And that if someone just didn't know anything about Krishna consciousness, and they heard that, they would think, what kind of God is that? What a wicked God that is. He likes to see you struggle. But really what's being said is Krishna likes to see that in spite of all difficulties, you're with him. You won't give him up. And you'll do it, you'll tolerate those difficulties. Somehow or other, you'll figure out, even if you succumb to them, you will figure out how to overcome them. Right? And that's glorious. So I think this is extremely important for all of us, because this is such a common problem that we focus on our faults. And it's not that we shouldn't be aware of our faults. I'm not saying that, and we should rationalize them, or I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that if we see the positive, that in spite of the fault, and in spite of the fact that sometimes I give in to my weakness, I still get up again, give it up, and go forward. That's glorious. And so we should appreciate ourselves instead of deride ourselves. Because, if you keep deriding yourself, you'll talk yourself out of Krishna consciousness. You'll think, what's the use? Whereas if you focus on the fact that you're still going on, you're still struggling, and that Krishna appreciates that, then that's inspiring. And then it also answers the question, and I'm sure you've had this question in your mind. Why does Krishna make it so difficult? He wants us to go back to God. And I get on the path, I'm a new bhakta, and I'm just like 0 to 108, the first week. But like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months later, I'm struggling to get the car up to 30 miles an hour. Like, why if he wants me to go back to Godhead, why does he make it so difficult? But from what Prabhupada said, we can see that that's actually, it's part of the process, and it gives us an opportunity to struggle, to, to employ all the qualities Krishna says we should have, like tolerance, patience, determination, and so forth. So the difficulties enable us to practice those qualities which are necessary, right? So this is one of the most beautiful statements Prabhupada made. It's one of the most beautiful statements Prabhupada made, isn't it? There's another thing that I just learned. I just found out, and it doesn't relate exactly to this, although indirectly, but it's so amazing. I want to share it with you because I never saw this letter before. And it's so good for us who are introducing Krishna consciousness to people, to know how to deal with people. And I think it also relates to discussion in a broad sense. So in the early days of the preaching in Russia, Prabhupada felt that he felt that the Russians are very interested in Krishna consciousness, and it would be one of the best places to preach. But it would be difficult for many people to adopt the four principles in the beginning because it's a different way of life. But he knew that once they became Krishna conscious, they would be able to adopt it. And he knew that they would make amazing devotees, which we see today. So this is what he said to one of his devotees there. In the early days of preaching in Russia, there was going to be initiation of a devotee. And Prabhupada said, this is amazing, he said, do not ask him to follow the four regulative principles. Only ask him to chant 16 rounds because they may not, I don't remember exactly, but what impression I got from what Prabhupada was saying is that it's like too much pressure for them. It may turn them off. They're not accustomed to do this. But Prabhupada said by chanting 16 rounds, they will. So now we have on file an evidence, not that we would copy this in every situation, or maybe never copy it, but we have evidence of an initiation where Prabhupada did not require someone to follow the four regulative principles. That's interesting because he felt in that situation, it would not be the best thing to force that upon them. So I know why I brought this up, aside from the fact that it's amazing. I brought it up to show that if we deal with ourselves the way Prabhupada deals with us, right? Like encourage us, well, at least you're struggling. Ananda, you're struggling. Tanya, you're struggling. El Tigrachino, you're struggling. Krishna Prema, you're struggling. Nadia, you're struggling. Fantastic. Ryan, you're struggling. Kamal, Daniela, Bharat, you're struggling. That's glorious. Keep going. But I'm having difficulty and sometimes I slip. But you stand up and fight. Glorious. It's glorious. And Prabhupada saying like, okay, we want you to be Krishna conscious. You will be if you chant properly. And even if you don't perfectly follow all the time or immediately, it's okay, keep chanting because you will. You will eventually if you keep going long enough, you will become successful. And so now, can we deal with ourselves that way? Because if for no other reason, that's how Prabhupada dealt with us. And then certainly we should deal with ourselves as he dealt with us. Of course, because it's the best way and the most encouraging way to deal with it, to deal with ourselves. So I don't know how I got on that answer from that question, but the spiritual world is quite big, so anything can happen. Tanya, did we finish the chapter or were there a few shlokas left? Do you remember?
We finished the chapter.
We did.
Hare Krishna.
I want to read the last two shlokas because I think there's some more. There's some more we could extrapolate from them. So I want to begin on chapter 9, Canto 7, text 53. It says, this is an important point Lord Narsimhadev makes to Prahlad Maharaj. My dear Prahlad, may you live a long time. One cannot appreciate or understand me without pleasing me. But one who has seen or pleased me has nothing more for which to lament for his own satisfaction. So this is such a simple point, and seems like it's like so difficult to get. It's like our material conditioning is just, it's like the dog's tail. You try to straighten it and then it curls. Straighten it, curls. You can't straighten a dog's tail. If you don't believe me, go out today and try. You know, if I just please Krishna, I'll be satisfied. Yeah, but I need this. No, you satisfy Krishna, everything will be satisfied. Yeah, it sounds good, but. And I think one of the ways we get around this is through experiencing the higher taste. Krishna says in the Gita, rasa, the taste. Rasa varjam, a better taste. You give a lower taste. We understand that. But also, I think there's a simple way to understand this intellectually. Nobody in this world is completely satisfied. It's not possible. We all know that. That's why we became devotees. And I think it's a Chanaka aphorism or Niti Shastra. It said something like there's 4 things people have never been satisfied with. They always want more of it. And one is food, because no matter how much food you eat, you're always looking forward to the next meal, right? It's not like one day you say, hey, that meal was so good, I think I'm not going to eat the rest of my life. Have you ever, nobody says that. So we'll never be satisfied with eating, we'll always want more. And money, does anyone have enough money? The wealthiest people in the world are still working to make more money. So no matter, you might think, well, if I just made X amount more, I would be satisfied. But when you make X amount more, then you realize you can buy X amount more things, and you'll still need X amount more, because then you want X amount more things. It's just the way it is. It's been studied. It's the nature of money, because it's the nature of the mode of passion. And as long as you're in a mode of passion, you always want more. It's just a fact of life. You will want more. And then sex. We can see that today our society is sex crazed, maybe more than ever in the history of the universe. What goes on as modern entertainment, 60, 70 years ago would be outlawed, illegal, pornographic, and now it's just normal, and there doesn't seem to be any end in sight unless the world blows up. It's just that has become the center, and it's being exploited endlessly because nobody's satisfied with it. And the last thing this shloka says, the last thing nobody's satisfied with is life itself. Like you can't. So now we intellectually understand why we can't, because matter is matter and spirit is spirit, and we are spirit, we're not matter. So matter can only satisfy the body, but it can't satisfy us, which is why we're never satisfied. But from another perspective, we were talking about this the other day. I've tried something 1,000 times. And then I think, 1,001 could be my lucky number. Let me try it again. It didn't work. It didn't make me happy. In fact, many times it made me miserable. So from a very practical and intellectual perspective, I've been in the material world millions of lifetimes. And what have I been doing 24/7 while I'm here in the material world, trying to satisfy myself? And so here comes the coach's question. How has that been working for you? And the answer of the client, not so good. All right. Do you think after 1,000 lifetimes or 10,000, 100,000, a million, 10 million, 100 million, a billion, that maybe you're going about it the wrong way? And so there's this fear that comes up in the heart of the devotees. But if I satisfy Krishna, then what about me? I'll be the loser. I'll be left out. I'll have nothing. It all goes to him. It's not fair, which is complete opposite of reality. It's actually the other way around. If I try to get everything myself, I actually lose everything. I lose my happiness. I'll end up losing my life at the end. So if somehow or other intellectually we can understand that way of becoming happy and satisfied will never work, it's impossible, and that satisfying Krishna will be I'll feel 1,000,000 times happier and more satisfied. If we can just understand that intellectually, that could kick in to give us faith in that, even before we experience it, just because the other options don't work. And we understand that intellectually they don't work. And we understand practically as well. So I think this is extremely important. And it's such a simple point. I mean, what could be more simple? If you please Krishna, you'll be pleased. It's like ABC of bhakti, right? Now, why is that so hard to understand? When Badahara and I were giving class, I was thinking that day, I was thinking that the day before, I was thinking, the realizations we get in Krishna consciousness are the realizations that we are ready to be open to. And the realizations we don't get are the ones we're not ready to be open to, because if we were ready to be open to them, Krishna would give us those realizations. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, why can't I understand this? Or why don't I have any realization? Probably you're afraid to understand it. Or probably you're not prepared to be the person you need to be in order to have that realization, or in order to use that realization in Krishna consciousness. It's something to think about. It's quite interesting. Why don't I understand this? Are you afraid? Because maybe you're afraid to understand it. Why don't I understand that only by satisfying Krishna, I'll be happy? Maybe you're afraid to admit that. Maybe you're afraid that surrender means giving up something you're attached to, and you have this wrong idea that if I give it up, I'll be unhappy. And you don't even want the realization. You're afraid of the realization. I'm not saying it's true for all of you. I'm just throwing this out as a possibility, because if we lack the realization we need to come to the next level, it's probably because we're afraid to go to the next level. And therefore, why would Krishna give you a realization to go to a level you don't want to go to, or you're afraid to go to? Right? So it's, and you can experiment with this, just like this week, let go of some of these things you're afraid of. Oh, if I let go of this, I won't be happy. Just do it this week. If it doesn't work, you have next week to grab them all back and see what happens, and see if you don't get deeper realization. Because now, if I'm going to let A, B, and C go, I need realization to be able to do it. If I'm not going to let it go, I don't need the realization. So then it's like a catch-22. I'm afraid to let it go, so I don't get the realization. But if I don't get the realization, I can't let it go. Whereas if I let it go, I'll get the realization to sustain letting it go. Does that make sense? And so all I'm saying is, you can make an experiment, just do it for a few days or a week. It doesn't, it's like, oh no, I can't let this go. Well, just let it go today and see if you get a realization. If it works, how about tomorrow? Or let go a little bit of it. And a lot of what we're talking about letting go is just in the mind. It's not something physical. It's the enjoyer mode. Sometimes devotees are afraid to be humble because they feel like they'll be exploited. Why don't you become humble? No way, I'm not going to be humble. I'll get exploited. Like that makes. So you're going to stay proud the rest of your life? Is that your plan? Yeah, I'm going to protect myself. Oh, I didn't know you were the protector. I thought Krishna was. Okay, we understand we don't want to be exploited by people, but that has nothing to do with humility. That's just protecting yourself from abusive people. That's something else. This is the kind of the irony of Krishna consciousness. You can't get the realization if you don't do something, and then you're saying, no, but I need the realization to do it. And I say, no, you have to do it to get the realization. And then if you do it, you'll get the realization to keep doing it. And the only realization you need now is the realization that if you do it, you'll get the realization. That's all you need. Just that realization. That's enough. Now, I have to put in a disclaimer here. When we talk about surrender, then sometimes devotees think, oh, I have to, they surrender so much that they become like dysfunctional. They're eating one chapati a day and wearing shoes with holes in them and things like that. That's not what we mean. When you talk about surrender, don't think of it in terms of material objects as such. Think of it more in terms of surrendering your independence, that I still thinking I'm the enjoyer and controller. That's what we're talking about. Krishna's the enjoyer. That's what we're surrendering, that mentality, that ego. So that's what I'm saying, like this week, just surrender that ego that I'm the enjoyer and say, okay, this week, Krishna, you're the enjoyer. That's it. That's all I think about. And this week, I will be convinced, even if I'm not, that I can not possibly be happy unless I make you the enjoyer 100%. Try it out. And then we'll ask you the coaching question. How did that work for you? And unless you do it wrong, I can give you the answer. The answer is it worked better. And it only didn't work better because you misunderstood and maybe you surrendered in a way which was self-destructive. We don't want self-destructive surrender. Sometimes a man doesn't want to get married. He likes the freedom of being single, but it's recognized that he's not really fit for a brahmachari life and he should get married. So in that case, surrender for him is to get married. That's the surrender because that's the best ashram, right? Or maybe you recognize that somebody, he would do better having his own house, having his own money, working a job, and being independent, which if you're in the brahmachari ashram and you say that to the brahmachari leader, I want to get my own house, my own money, be independent, they would say, no, that's not good. But in some cases, for some people, that would be surrender, actually having those things, because for that person, it would be the best thing for them. They actually need that. And they couldn't live as a brahmachari. So surrender is relative to the individual. So I'm not saying, surrender yourself into a corner where you become dysfunctional and depressed. That's not what I'm talking about. But surrendering the ego that I'm the enjoyer and controller. Give it a test this week, see how it works for you. If it doesn't work, you get your money back. If it doesn't work, go back to being the enjoyer and controller. You can always take up that ego. It's not, that you can't. You have that choice. Well, last thought I want to give on this verse. I've given it before, and it's also very simple. And its beauty is its simplicity. It's so simple and so beautiful. And it's simply this, that Krishna just wants our love. And all the, I don't know if I can surrender, it's just hesitation. It's like Tanya, just got married. So before they were married, it's like, when do you want to get married? She's asking her fiance. I don't know. I have to think about it. I don't know if I'm ready. So Krishna's asking us, so when are you going to love me? I don't know. I have to think about it. I'm still attached, I can't just give up everything. It's not like Krishna's asking you to give up everything, but that affection in your heart that you give to so many things and so many people, he's asking for that. And when you think about it, you meditate on this deeply, you realize this is so simple. That's all bhakti is. There's just Krishna. He just wants me to love him, still loving everything else. Oh, did you see that movie? I love it. And Krishna's like, dang, why don't you love me? Oh, that song is my favorite song. Dang, why don't you love me? Oh, it's my favorite food. Oh, did you offer it? Ooh, I forgot, So Krishna is looking at all that and saying, why, like, when are you going to love me more than you love ice cream? Or than you love a movie or this or that? That's all it is. So when we say, I have to give up, I have to surrender, really what we're saying is just, I have to love Krishna. That's all we're saying. When you say give up, detach, overcome anarthas, this and that, it's all like, oh no, that's so difficult. That's so scary. It's so hard. It's better to say, Krishna just wants me to love him. And all those other things are just getting in the way of love. So if he wants me to love him, I have to do something about it. Right? Yes? So it's a much easier and simple way to understand things. And it's less fearful, because love is not really fearful. Surrender, giving up is fearful. But surrender and giving up, as I've said a million times, is only a byproduct of love. So when you focus on surrender and giving up, it's scary. And you focus on love, it's not, because we all want love anyway. And you don't have to worry about so much about surrender and giving up. That will just come as a byproduct of love. Of course, you might say, but don't you have to give up to love? That's true, of course. But for the sake of this discussion, just to contextualize, essentially what's going on is we're just trying to give all the love we give to other things to Krishna. That's all surrender is. It's not like something huge and scary. That's all Krishna wants. And so my question that I ask over and over again is a simple question. When are we going to do that? Like, how long do we wait before we do that? How long do you make Krishna wait? So put in that context, it can be a very strong impetus. Well, I don't really want to make him wait. So am I going to go out and do my service for name and fame year after year after year? Or am I going to do it to please Krishna? Am I going to try to extract some sense gratification from bhakti? Or am I just kind of going to do everything to please Krishna? Because ultimately, that's what we have to come to that platform. If you beat around the bush year after year, doesn't mean you don't have to come to that platform. You can bypass it. No, you can't. And that's also another intellectual understanding that's important. That it's just like, if I'm going to your house, I can go many ways, but finally I have to get on your street and drive up your driveway. So you can try to avoid the direct path to Krishna consciousness, but eventually you have to end up on that street of Braj, of love. That's how you do it. So you can make excuses, you can take your time, but as I've said often, it doesn't get easier to do. Doing it later doesn't make it easier. If you have a problem with your tooth, is it any easier to go to the dentist in a month than it is tomorrow? Not really, because in 30 days, it'll still be tomorrow. It'll still be just as difficult as it is today, right? Do difficult things get easier by putting them off? I haven't seen that. I mean, unless you change yourself, put it off so you can change that, yeah. But otherwise, no. Okay. Do we have more comments here? Go there. Let's see what we have here. Krishna Premi says, I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. When I was younger, even the song lyrics, video clips, were as not appropriate and direct as they are today, and not that many years have passed. Is this due to how Kali Yuga progresses, and is society degrading faster now? Also, what makes people crave for more sense gratification than before? One of I think it was a disciple of Prabhupada's godbrothers. This was his opinion. I don't know if it was his opinion or from Shastra, but he said something I found interesting, and it seems to be happening the way he explained it. He said that what we're seeing now are symptoms of Kali Yuga that were supposed to happen later, not so soon, but because Prabhupada's movement took such a stronghold, Kali fought back, and things are degrading faster. Interesting, isn't it? It does seem like that, like, because sometimes you read symptoms of the end of Kali Yuga and you look out the window and they seem to be happening right now. And it makes you wonder, as Kali put all his tricks in a time machine and kind of made the future is present now. Your observations are correct. And the problem is, I think you're saying, you're asking, is this society degrading faster? It seems to be. What makes people crave for more sense gratification than before? The more sense gratification you're offered, the more you want it. That's the nature of passion. And so there's a lot more now. Sex is everywhere. That's the center of sense gratification. It's more easily available. I don't want to give a whole lecture on sex because then you'll be thinking about sex, but more sense gratification is available. It's more normal. There's less awareness of traditional values of self-discipline, self-control, etc. How important that is. And there's more of a mood is just enjoy and be happy. That all started with the hippies, and it's just grown ever since. If it feels good, do it, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. Of course, it does hurt a lot of people to do a lot of things that feel good for us. And it's pervading the society, and people are becoming more and more degraded. I've often told this story about this man who made a promise to Prabhupada to help us. And he helped us, and we made many mistakes. He was very frustrated with us. And he said, I don't feel like helping you anymore, but I am because Prabhupada asked me. So he was a man of his word. He is no longer alive. If he were alive, he'd probably would be 110 or something like that now. So that generation was a different generation. For people my age who grew up in a generation that had higher moral values, we saw the shift in terms of commitment, sticking to your word, honesty. I was told, and many people have confirmed this, that in the early 1900s in America, business agreements were made without contracts, but were made with handshakes. Because once people gave their word, you didn't have to worry. That's how people were. A lot different now, right? we know the situation with divorce and commitment. So, you know, they figured out how to get along, even if they didn't get along. They stayed committed as far as possible. We see something going on in society that is quite alarming, that we have, in order to allow free sexual expression, we have convinced much of the world that abortion is not killing. There's not a living entity there. That's, to me, is inconceivable of the degradation, of the dullness, that in the name of it's my body, I can do what I want. Well, what about the body of the person in your body? Why don't you ask them what they want to do? No, there's nobody there. It's just a tissue. For the first 3 trimesters, it's a tissue. So, you know, what we see is happening in society is if people want to validate any degraded activity, they work around it so it becomes acceptable in society. And it's not, you know, they're just removing tissue from a woman's womb. It's not, they're not killing a fetus, they're removing the tissue. And I think in Vietnam or in wartime, they didn't talk about killing, they talked about removing undesirable elements. Oh yeah, we'll just remove these undesirable elements, drop the bomb on this village, and all these innocent people are killed. So traditional Kshatriya values were not like that. So yeah, definitely degradation has sped up. And that's why Prabhupada often said Krishna consciousness is the only hope. And whenever I would read that, and Prabhupada said Krishna consciousness is the only hope, I would think, the only hope, my God, you know, call a temple. You'd be lucky if someone answers the phone within 84 rings, if at all. If there is anybody answer the phone, how is Krishna consciousness the only hope? But I was looking at ISKCON is the only hope. Well, if you say ISKCON's the only hope, and that we don't answer the phone, it makes you question. Or you have temple president who's not there at the morning program, he doesn't have good sadhana. It makes you wonder, how will we go on? But when Prabhupada's saying Krishna consciousness is the only hope, he was saying that if you look at the degradation of society, why did the recording stop?
Sorry, Guru Maharaj. I think I got
about to say something
disconnected
really,
for a second.
really controversial. You want to start recording it again? Should I hit record?
Yeah, it's actually recording.
Oh, it is recording. Okay. So, yeah, if you look at the degradation of the world, and Prabhupada saying Krishna consciousness is the only hope, it's, if you look at the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and what it offers in terms of upgrading and purifying people, then you could see it's the only hope to prevent this degradation. Otherwise, every generation tends to be more degraded, as far as I've seen. I mean, not consistently. Some generations are better than others, but I mean, look at the music. Look at the movies. Like, what are all the movies about? Murder and sex, basically. You know, the big ones, or lots of them, right? Some big bad guy, you know, killing everybody, and then having sex with his girlfriend, and then killing some more people, more sex. Yeah. So then you raise your children on those movies. So what are they going to do? There's this teacher, he said something really, really interesting. He said, what is a movie about? He said, the beginning of the movie, the hero is abused in some way, mistreated, treated unjustly, right? And the rest of the movie is him taking revenge against the person who mistreated him. So he said, that's your typical movie, right? You may call it the hero's journey, but so many movies are about taking revenge against mistreatment. He said, so that's what you teach your children. When you're mistreated, you take revenge against the person in any way you need to, including cheating, lying, killing, whatever. And what do the sexual scenes in the movies tell you? Do they tell you that you should get married and chant 50 rounds and then have kids? I don't think so. They tell you that, that's good. The handsome guy gets the handsome girl. So girls, make yourself look beautiful. Guys, make yourself look beautiful and you'll be happy. So, so many people have pointed out that the violence and the sex in the movies is equated within society. So, I don't know. I think the movies are a good indication of where society's at. If you look at Indian movies from 30, 40, 50 years ago, what percentage were religious? And what percentage had sex? 0. Did you know that up until recently, you could not have a man and a woman kissing in an Indian movie? It was not allowed. Did you know that? That's changed, and it keeps changing. And I think they'll surpass Hollywood in their degradation because it's always like that, The countries that were the most conservative, when they copy the West, they do it worse or better, depending on how you look at it. So yeah, that's welcome to Kali Yuga, Krishna Premi. My advice to you is get out as soon as you can. It's just going to get worse. And but what we're seeing, the big advantage of it getting worse is people are realizing it's worse. So it enables them to hear our message more easily. And Nadia says, how can we love Krishna? How can we not love Krishna? How can we love Krishna being who we are and where we are right now? How will he manifest? How will it be manifested practically? What does it mean for us as aspiring devotees to love Krishna? It means to be sincere. Sincere means to serve Krishna with the intention that this is for you. I want to please you. Prabhupada once said, when he was asked the question, what does it mean to love the spiritual master? And Prabhupada said, at this point, many devotees were not following their vows. So he said, to love the spiritual master means to follow your vows. So, if you're looking at love in terms of prema or bhava, then yeah, when we use the word love, we just think, well, I can't love Krishna. So we have to translate it in our context, because we don't want to throw the word out just because it really refers to something we're not even close to, and therefore say, oh, I don't love Krishna, I never will, why try? No, Prabhupada uses the word a lot. He uses the word a lot in relation to guru and disciple. Right? When Satyarup Maharaj was in the beginning days typing, and he was giving Prabhupada the manuscripts that he typed, and Prabhupada said, this is not work. This is love. He said, if you love me, I love you. So what did Prabhupada mean? Did he mean love's like pure bhakti? And no, it meant that we're trying to please another person. That's love. So now do you get married? And of course, the first thing on your wedding day you want to tell your husband to make sure he understands is, when you get home and go on the honeymoon, just want you to understand there's no love in this material world. Yeah, you got to understand that, otherwise. Or you probably want to say that before you get married. Once you understand there's no love in the material world, so don't expect me to love you. No, you wouldn't say that. But we understand if you say, I love my husband, or I love my guru, or I love my mother, my father, my dog, my best friend. We understand that it means that I would sacrifice for them. I'm here to make sure that whatever I can do to help them, I will. And so it's not that you want to throw that word out. I think a lot of devotees throw it out because it means prema, and we know, well, if we don't have prema, then how can we talk about love? Your love is your sincerity. Your love is your obedience. First law of love is obedience. Love is not a feeling as much as an action. How can I, if I say, Nadia, can you do this? And you do this, that's a manifestation of your love. If you say, Guru Maharaj, can you help me do this? I help you. This is a manifestation of my love. So it's not material love. It's not prema, but we can't say it's not. I mean, sometimes the word affection may be a better word because we mix up love and prema and we get confused. Anyway, the sincere desire to serve Krishna is love, contextually speaking, in relation to the sadhaka. So can you have love as a sadhaka? That's what it looks like. It's not bhava, it's not prema, but it's, you know, you remember how Prabhupada would say, my disciples have so many defects, but they'll do anything I ask. So Prabhupada accepted that as love. When Prabhupada was ill, he wanted to go back to Godhead, and he said, I don't want to live. He said, take me to Govardhan. I want to spend my last days on going around Govardhan. Put me on a bullock cart. And then Prabhupada said, and they'd say, but Prabhupada, you'll die. He said, what is the harm? You know, something like that, I'll die. And so the devotees, of course, were going insane, thinking we can't allow Prabhupada to do that. And then finally they asked Prabhupada and said, please don't do that. It's driving us crazy. We're going insane. And Prabhupada said that, all right, I don't want to put you in anxiety. And then to Mahakrishna Maharaj said it, he said, well, it's actually it's drawing our love for you more out of our hearts more and more. And Prabhupada said, yes, that is my duty as your guru, to draw out that love. So Prabhupada did use the word love. It's not that he didn't use it in relation to us. So does that make sense, Nadia? We have to use it. Prabhupada's using in the word love, often defining it in how we define it ordinarily, not as prema. And you don't have prema for a guru in that sense. But when you're willing to sacrifice for another person, that's love. And that's why love is so sweet, because two people will sacrifice for one another. And the big mistake is sometimes people get married and one wants the other to sacrifice, but unless they both sacrifice, where's the love? It's reciprocal. It's not one way. And we should never think that, oh, why should I love Krishna? I'm just surrendering to Krishna. It sounds like it's one way, and Krishna's saying, surrender to me. Oh, it's one way. But he surrenders to us more than we surrender to him. So it's never one way. Now, when we talk about love of Guru, love of devotees, love of Krishna in our state, I think it's healthy to talk about it because it makes us look at our motivations, and it makes us look at our selfishness. Oh, I don't want to do that. Guru Maharaj asked me to do that. I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. Okay. Now's the time to show your love. Or the Guru, I don't want to talk to so-and-so. I don't feel like it. It's the same thing, but the Guru has affection for so-and-so and they don't want to see so-and-so suffer. So even though if it's late at night or inconvenient or troublesome, then he does it anyway. That's love. And if we're trying to develop love for Krishna and we don't have love for our God brothers, God sisters, for our spiritual master, how are we going to develop love for Krishna? It's the same thing. It's selflessness. I think I was talking about that in another class, that when we have difficulty and we have to make sacrifice, not when we have difficulty, but when it's difficult to make sacrifice, but we're called on to make sacrifice for another person, it's actually good, because that's what we need to learn. And you know, people get married and they go, oh, my husband doesn't serve me enough, my wife doesn't serve me enough. But how is that going to help you in your spiritual life? It's only going to help you when you do what you don't like doing because it pleases them. That's what love is, right? There's so many times I get up early in the morning and I'm feeling like I don't really want to get up. And then I think, Prabhupada wants me to get up. So that's love. Right? Even though it doesn't look like love, you just get up and chant, but that's love because he asked you to do it. So you follow it. That's love. And the more you have it, the better. Love for Guru, love for Prabhupada, love for God brothers, God sisters, husband, wife, the animals, everything. Poor people. That's what it's all about. I think we have something else. Please protect me from Maya. You need to protect yourself. What do I need to do? Chant 16 good rounds every day. Read Srila Prabhupada's books every day. Put up an altar, worship deities, associate with devotees, and go to the temple. And don't listen to your mind when it tells you to do anything other than that. When it tells you to do anything which is detrimental. Here's a thought for you, Kavita. Maya's not, you don't need protection from Maya. You need protection from your mind. Your own self is our own selves are the problem. Maya is not the problem. Maya is not the problem. That is proven. Daiviyesha gunamahi mama maya do it. Mama eviye prapadyante maya metantanantiteya, devotee Maya can't do anything. So Maya is not the problem. The problem is our conditioned self. We give into that. That's the problem. We are the enemy. It's not Maya. Maya can only be the enemy, quote unquote, when we're our own enemy. That's the only way she can do it. Then how are you your own enemy? Don't chant 16 rounds. Don't read Prabhupada's books. Don't get up early. Don't associate nicely with devotees. Don't worship deities. Then you're your own enemy. And you can't ask then, how can I love Krishna? Why don't I love Krishna? You can't ask that question if you're not doing those things. And if you're doing those things, you don't need to ask the question because you're on the path. So if you're going to allow yourself to give in to your own weaknesses, then nobody can help you. Not Prabhupada, not me, not her, not him, not the universe, not even Krishna himself can help you. So we are our worst enemy. We are our greatest friend. It's just the fact. So if you become your friend, everything will be good. That's all. And if you want to blame it on Maya and avoid the fact that it's really our own minds, our own hearts, our own desires, then we'll never come to the right solution. If I chant 16 rounds a day, doing everything possible to avoid the offenses, there won't be a Maya. If I read Prabhupada's books diligently, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, there won't be Maya. If I associate with advanced devotees, there won't be Maya. I won't be my own enemy. It won't happen. It's not possible. If we're asking how to get out of Maya, we must not be doing those things, or we must be thinking in the wrong way. Either spiritually misunderstanding or psychologically, we have some defect. because if we do those things properly, we won't have a problem. Maya is nothing in the face of Krishna. Krishna is light. All the darkness within us, how can it stand in the light of the holy name? But if our holy name is dark, then there's no hope. You ever chant a dark holy name trying to light up your life? It doesn't work that way. Go bring in some darkness. Bring it inside your house. See if it lights it up. Bring in a box of darkness. Open it up in your house. So if if your chanting is offensive, then it's just a dark holy name. How are you going to have my life is dark. Yeah, well, if you chant properly, it'll be light. If you chant improperly, you're just bringing in more darkness. Can't light up the darkness with a dark name. Well, that would be a good name for a book, right? Sachinandan's book was The Broken Names. My book could be The Dark Names. Do you ever feel that way? Your names are dark. Finish your rounds, you're still in the dark. Yeah. So, what was that was a good waste of 2 hours, right? What did you do today? I spent 2 hours today bringing darkness into my house. It's still dark in there. I can't see a thing. Oh, sounds like a waste of time to me. Hare Krishna. The dark names. How do you know your names are light? Because it lights up your life. Hare Krishna. If you're chanting Hare Krishna, and still the material world is very, very attractive, still overwhelmed by false ego and material desire, then you're chanting the dark name. But if you're chanting the light name, you'll bring in the light. You won't feel that way. You'll feel very happy, very detached, very peaceful, very inspired. Guaranteed, or your money back. And as I often say, if you don't believe me, try it. Try to chant the bright names without offense. See how it works. Give it a week. 1 week to transformation. 7 days to know Maya. How about that, Kavita? My next book. 7 days to know Maya. 7 times 16. That's 42. Well, it's 142 rounds. 142 rounds to perfection. 1 week. 1 week of good job. Even one good mantra will dispel all the ignorance. Nobody should ever ask how to, because we have the Maha Mantra. And the only reason we're asking how to is, maybe not the only, but probably because we're making so many, we're not chanting properly. So we're asking how to get out of Maya. If you're chanting properly, you wouldn't ask the question, because you would be out of it. Right? You don't ask a question how to get out of something if you're already out. How do I get out of this state? You already are. You don't ask it. You only ask it while you're in that other state. Hare Krishna. I could give you another answer to your question, and the other answer is do whatever you have to do to be Krishna conscious. And you figure that out yourself, what it is you have to do for you specifically, where you're lacking, and do it. Hare Krishna. That's called determination. When you do whatever you have to do to succeed at something, that's called determination. How do I do this? I don't know. Just do it. Figure it out. Do not allow yourself to not be Krishna conscious. Figure it out means it's already been figured out. Just follow it. Just learn it, follow it, do it right. And then why put all kinds of energy into struggling and being disappointed when you can just do it right and get good results? Hare Krishna. So that looks like we've answered all the questions. One verse and lots of questions. But I think many important points were discussed today. You might want to listen to this again. You might have missed some things. Hare Krishna. So we can officially end this class and prepare for the next one, the Japa Sangha.